I'm kind of intimidated to introduce Christine. She's a member of Mensa. She was a competitive figure skater. She has her, an MBA. She's worked for some of the biggest Canadian banks. But you know what was very humbling when I was speaking to her before? She said she wanted to start a startup that wasn't for TechTO.
100%.
And I think that's why we started this organization. Sometimes it's very hard to see other people how to do it, and you have to be motivated. So Christine, you have an amazing background with all those background, all that credibility. And I'm glad that we could help you take that step because I think it's just awesome having the community. So come share some knowledge.
Thank you.
Woo!
Hello, everyone. My name is Christine Beasley, and I'm the founder of Untangle Money. Quick show of hands, how many people here know a woman who's intimidated by money? Yeah. Yes. Okay, a little bit less than I was expecting. Maybe check with your girlfriends when you go home. Because 9 out of 10 women in Canada want help with their money, and I was one of them. So in my 20s, I was a nationally ranked athlete, and I wasn't afraid to be tossed in the air. And I was also an engineer who could design any component on this natural gas processing plant. But what I didn't know was where to get started with my money. And I had no idea what I was supposed to do. So I went to the bank and I met with an advisor. And to be honest, that guy was a bit of a dick. And so I didn't end up investing my money that day, which is a shame. But it sparked something in me. And so I read all of Warren Buffett's letters to shareholders. And I read every book that was recommended to me about money. And later when I got my MBA, I got to meet Warren Buffett, which was really cool. And later I worked on Canada's largest trading floor. I became a stock analyst and I helped very wealthy Canadians invest their money. And so along the way I married my husband and we have 3 awesome kiddos. And now I'm the founder of Untangle Money. We are the perfect place for young women to get started with their money and to understand the choices that they're facing. When we work with men, they wonder about the quality of their retirement. What do you think women wonder about? They wonder if they need a roommate. That is how different women and men's financial lives are. Now, we knew that women had more pain points than men, so we set off to build an app to help everyday women with their personal finances. And we thought this was going to be a packaging exercise. So what do I mean by that? Well, if you look at Gold's Gym, there are a lot of design decisions that went into making this black hellscape. And if you compare and contrast that with a yoga studio, there are a lot of design decisions that went into this. Both spaces help you exercise, but they're going to appeal to very different people. And so at Untangle Money, we thought we were making the yoga studio for personal finances. Yeah. So we took this qualitative comparison to venture capitalists and they said, eh. And so we thought, right, we'll go find some quantitative data to support our thesis and come back. And so we did, and what we found shocked us. Women and men have radically different financial lives. So we'll look at Sandra and Owen. Sandra is more likely to go into an industry that pays less than Owen's. She's more likely to get paid less for equal work. She's going to take time out of paid work for maternity and elder care responsibilities. And this is what this looks like in Canada. The top line is the average male salary in Canada, the green one. The bottom line is the average women's salary in Canada. That's the orange one. Women's salaries peak at 42. That sucks for me because I'm 48. The gray part, it's hard to see, I apologize, is the delta. And the delta goes from 10,000 to 40,000 each year, every single year for all 42 years that I'm showing you here, which sucks for me as well because that adds up to more than $1 million over the course of a career, right? So we took this quantitative data back to the VCs. They still didn't care. They said, doesn't matter. And we said, great. We're so glad we figured this out about incomes before we spoke to our customers because this would have really sucked for us. But we thought, now that we have a product, we'll go work with women. So we did. We worked with 13 women in our pilot. And we said, if you want to be a certified financial planner, are there any in the room? No? The first question you're going to ask your customers is, what are your financial goals? So we did. We asked 13 women what their financial goals were, and we got 13 women who said to us, "Oops, huh? What is a financial goal? I don't know what you mean." Which is not a great start if you're trying to automate a solution, just FYI. But we're like, it's okay, it's okay. We can teach them what a financial goal is. And so we did. We said a financial goal is something you have to save up for. And so they came back with some amazing goals. They said, oh, I want to go back to school. I want to buy a car. Really brilliant, brilliant. This is great. We took their goals, we took their data, we went back and we crunched their numbers. And this was the absolute worst day of my life as a founder. Because I found out that not only could these women not afford their financial goals, they also couldn't afford to retire at 65. And so that's when we learned, and that's how we learned, that financial plans are made for rich people. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you have $5 and you want to buy 3 $1 items, I can plan for that. 1, 2, 3. Like he said, I'm a genius, you're welcome. This is a prioritization exercise. But when we work with everyday folks, the problem is they also want to buy 3 $1 items, but they only have $2 to work with. This becomes a trade-off exercise. And your trade-offs are going to be different than my trade-offs because our values are different. So now we start with a mantra and setting your intention. And I can tell you about 10 more times, Shika can attest to it, when I fell on my face. And I can also share with you how those failures made our product infinitely better. But what I really want you to walk away from here understanding is that there are assumptions based in the processes and products that you are building, and that some of them are unintentional and some of them are unrecognized. So make sure you're working with your clients early, you're iterating often, so that you can ensure that the things that you're building are really helping the people you want to build. Thank you very much. Any questions?
I love that. I had no idea.
One right here.
Thank you. So really thanks for your fascinating presentation, and I do sure your products will be so useful for your target audience, because like you go through all the interview from Berkshire Hathaway. But I have one small question. Is like I feel like your product is really about anti-human nature, because you want to help someone to stop doing the wrong things, right? But why we constantly doing the wrong decision? Because the wrong decisions have short-term temptation. Just like smoking, we know smoking is bad, but we always can't get rid of smoking. So how would you do your product distribution to the people who actually need your product, but they are most of the time are doing the wrong decisions? But we know the right decisions is something, rational thinking is like you think about a financial plan which will beneficial to you for next 5 years or 10 years.
Yeah, so I want to shout out to the gentleman over here who talked about financial decisions being not just numbers, but they're very emotional. One of the things that we believe, so I'm going to preface this by saying our biggest competitor is doing absolutely nothing, right? It is so easy to just sit and do nothing. And then I'm going to follow that up with saying every single really wealthy person that I worked with had a financial plan done every year. And just like your financial health and your dental health, you too should have a financial plan done every year. So I'm going to do show of hands, how many people here have a financial plan? Okay, so for those of you who do not have your hands up, how many of you know how much money you need when you need to retire?
More.
Great. More is always good. And with all due respect, how do you know what you're doing is enough to get you there? Because if I'm driving a car and I just jump in and go, without a map, I'm probably not going to get to my destination. So yes, there are a lot of things that we do that are not in our best interest. And I think it's actually more of a class thing. I think the rich people get it done for them, and so they have it because it's part of the service offering. And one of the biggest assumptions I made and biggest mistakes I made was I thought that everybody wanted a financial plan, and it turns out people don't know what it is. So we sometimes call it personalized financial literacy because that's a little more palatable. And so it's a great question. Thank you for asking. I think that it will take a huge national campaign. So if there's anybody from like Dove or Unilever who wants to just jump on board the wagon, I'm happy to be the poster child for financial health. Any other questions? Oh, yeah.
All right, I'm coming right back, so
Nice.
thank you for the shout out.
Was it Ben?
Raphael.
Raphael, not even close. I apologize. Sorry.
So I guess my question is, so you talk about budgeting, right? You talk about a yearly plan or a monthly plan.
Yeah.
So much can happen on a day-to-day basis, right? Like I'm having a bad day, so I'm gonna binge and like order Uber Eats, right?
Yeah. We call it bucket money.
Right.
We do.
That's a good way to say it.
Yeah.
So my question really is, how do you talk to your target audience about those everyday decisions?
Did I pay him to do this? I wonder if I did. I didn't. But that's a great question, and that's because I have a great answer. So thank you. So we actually break down your budget by we take your take-home income and then we split it into the categories where you spend money, and we then take all the money you've already spent plus all the money you need that you can sustainably put towards retirement. We just put that to the side, and then the money that you have left over, we actually break down dollars per hour worked. So this is not a fun fact, but in 2019, the last time we have StatsCan data, the average Ontario woman has $4 for every hour that she works that she can spend on food, clothes, gifts, all the things and everything else, and she needs to find joy with that spending. So not what Scotiabank tells you, but we are poorer than we think. And what we want you to know is that we want you to know, is that lunch worth it for me if I have to spend 20 hours of my week doing it? And I think that is a way different decision than if you say, oh, do you deserve it? Or like, I need this or whatever, all the bullshit that marketers say. So I'm not good at marketing. And so I think if you're a foodie, that answer might be a little different than if you're a fashionista, right? So what we want you to do is we want you to intentionally spend your money because you understand there's a time associated with it. Your time is on the hook, and that's how we do it. And what we found, so shout out to another one of my colleagues who's no longer with me, Kanika. She came and she bought me lunch recently, actually just this fall, because she said, hey, I didn't really use the number specifically, but it made me stop buying things at the vending machine and things that just didn't move that dial for me, because I knew I wanted to concentrate my efforts on what brought me joy. And she said, not only did I pay off my credit card debt, but I've paid off my student loan, and I've saved up $30,000. My dad and I are going to go in investment property with it. And she's like, I want to buy you lunch to thank you for that. So that's the change we see over 4 years. And she didn't even use the metric. It just kind of resonated in there for a while. So thank you for the question. I'll give you buy you a drink later. That's getting paid for. Thank you.
Give a round of applause.
Woo!
Jason, you almost had to walk.
You killed that.
You're allowed to do that.
Good stuff.